Hello my party people, this is Martin from SynthAttack, and yes, this is my normal voice without any effects on it. And we are gonna show you today a nice production overview of our latest single, Call Me Insane 90s tribute. And we're gonna try to make it as interesting as possible for every one of you, so not only the producers can watch this, but also like people who just wanna see how we reproduce our music. And yeah, let's keep it short and simple, so it's not gonna get 2 hours long. I'm gonna start with the basic stuff, and later I'm gonna go into details about the sound design and mixing and stuff like that. So the people who are producers themselves, and they can listen to the end, and the other people just can listen as long as they are interested. So what we are seeing here on the screen is the project inside of Ableton. Ableton is like the DAW, like my audio software I'm gonna use, and we are using it for production and also on stage. And on the screen you can see to the right are these lines. Each line is a different sound, which is one track inside of the song, and we have different tracks who are like adding up to the song. And another advantage of Ableton is that we have groups. So we have these tracks grouped into a leads chorus. For the non-producers, lead sounds are like sounds who are usually a bit higher and playing the melody. So this group is for the leads of the chorus and like the intro and the outro. As you can see, so the song starts left and goes all the way to the right. So this is the start and this is the end. So we have a leads chorus, we have the group leads verse, which are the sounds for the verses, and we have one more group for the bridge and the outro, which is even different sounds. Then we have our bass lines, very straightforward, just 3 bass sounds playing through the whole song with some different automation. So then we have a vocal group for my vocals, which are 2 tracks with different effects on it. Then we have Nikki's vocals, who are just the whispers in the song, but nonetheless important. And we have a group for effects, which are transition sounds. And we have our drum sounds. So this is the overview of all tracks. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple, not too many tracks, but it's better to keep it as simple as possible with the best outcome. So you only use good sounds and only use as much sounds as you need. And yeah. All right. The most important thing for a SynthAttack song is always the melody and a good sound for it as well. So in this case, Call Me Insane is a tribute to Mr. Wayne. So our starting point is the melody of Mr. Wayne, which you can listen here. Right, so this is a very basic sound, a normal supersaw sound. And you can see the notes inside of this MIDI window. So on the left side there's a piano roll, so the notes are getting played after each other. This is like an A, an E, an A, an E, an F, and C, etc., etc. So this is a melody of the original Mr. Wayne, and we didn't just want to cover it, but we want to make a tribute with our own style and our own sound, and also like a dark electro version, not like a Eurodance pop track. So what we did was, first of all, adjust the MIDI notes. So what we did is, from these normal MIDIs, we changed like this little part here. We split it up, so it sounds like this. Not a big difference, but still something. And the important part is the second half. On the original, it would just repeat this kind of MIDI notes, and we added in variation, which goes up instead of down here. Like instead of going to the F, it goes to the C. So it sounds like this. This is the first half of the melody, now the second half. And we also put the last note a bit lower to make it like more interesting and give it a little bit more flow. So this was the first step we did. And then it's important to use good sounds. And this was a pretty normal super saw and built inside of Silence. And we wanted to use a really darker sounding, more cool sound. So this is the sound we are using mainly here in the song. And as you can hear, it already sounds much different. And this is like a sound built with Silence, which is more like a super saw with a little bit of square wave in it. It's like a more sound design details. We can look into that later. But for now, it's we wanted to have it a little bit more deep and dark and a little bit more filtered, so you can hear these little clicks of each note instead of like one big noisy wave. But this is too clean to be a big chorus, so we also added another layer, and together it sounds like this. All right, so this is sounding much more dirty already. So for the synthie pop fans and the fans of you who are like it a bit more clean and soft, it's a different style, but SynthAttack is always about creating big impact, big energy. So you need fat sounds in the chorus at least, and that can only be achieved by using a little bit more dirty sounds as well. And yeah, you cannot make a mix which is super clean and super separated. It will just sound thinner and not as fat and not as energetic as we prefer. So we use always some bigger sounds in the background as well. So this is the leads in the chorus, and let's check out the bass lines. They are pretty straightforward as well. Very simple off bass, only playing the root notes, going up here as well. We have 3 layers. This is like the main sound of it. It's like a sound from the Varus DI. So this is the foundation of the bass. And the other sounds just add more upper harmonics to it. And together with the lead sounds, it sounds like this. Right, but what would a dark electro song be without good drum sounds? You need like a hard-hitting bass drum and a good snare. So we have that here. I'm gonna play that together with the bass, because it is important that it mixes well together with the bass lines. So you can check it out here. So we have kick and the snare. And we also have hi-hats, but they're not playing in the chorus, they're only playing in the verse. So it's very, very basic from the elements, but nonetheless, if the sounds are good, that's the most important thing. We have another variation in the chorus, which is pretty important. So we have a second part in the chorus where another sound is added, which is like this one here. Super high, super harsh, kinda super saw sound, but this gives the chorus another flavor. So let's check it out. We have like the melody from before with the basic chorus sounds, and now it gets more intense. This third lead comes in, gives it a much more aggressive, more energetic kind of flavor. So this is also a big part, and in the end of the chorus we have also a different melody which is getting played. Let's check it out. You can hear a new melody comes in. This is for the last chorus, like for the second half and the outro, to keep it even more interesting, adding a new kind of part in the song. And as you can hear, this harsh kind of super saw sound really mixes pretty well with the other already existing pretty fat sounds. And that comes from the Vanguard. So like one of the few synthesizers who can make this high, harsh sounding, aggressive leads sound that you often hear in like harder, dark electro. All right, so this is the chorus. Let's check out the verse. The verse, we have different midis. So usually what we do in building our songs is like we try to find a really good melody for the chorus, which in this case the foundation was Mr. Wayne and we pimped it a bit. But in other songs you can jam around yourself and find yourself different melodies. So usually pretty easy for me to find a good melody, at least for our taste. And for the chorus and the intro, outro and bridge, you can just jam around and look for similar melodies who are fitting it, or you can just use the MIDI of the chorus and try to simplify it. So that way you get like a verse melody that is pretty similar and also really fitting the chorus melody as well. So what we did is, this is the main sound of the verse. Right, so it's very basic, very simple. 3 notes playing the different root notes, also like a little bit variations in between to not make it too boring. And we have a more separation in the second verse, but we also have a second sound adding to it. This is just a fat super saw in the background, with also like filtered out like with a LFO tool. You can see it here. It cuts out the start of the note to give it this flow kind of sound. Without it would sound like this, very boring, also not fitting too well with the kick, but this gives it a nice flow and also let the kick through much better. Put together it sounds like this. And together with the bass and the drums. And now the snare comes in. Alright, so this is the verse. Nothing too special. Good clear sounds, interesting midis. That's kind of all you need for a straightforward club track at least. Alright, but one of the most important things in a SynthAttack track is the filter sweep. Like most of our songs have like pre-chorus and an intro which is building up slowly and building up in the sound, growing bigger, more intense, and then ends in a big impact on the chorus where everything comes together to build some tension. And we have that here as well. We can check it in the intro. As you can hear, it starts very quiet, which is the main lead, playing pretty filtered down. And we have done this with I think with an auto filter, which is on the group, as you can see here. This is like a basic filter plugin from Ableton Auto Filter. Also one of my favorite filter plugins, because you can add like a nice distortion type and add a bit of drive, so it gives the sound a bit good distortion, some more harmonics, and make it, when it rises, you can give it a little bit resonance and it sounds a little bit better. But basically what happens here is, you know, for like for the beginners, you have this frequency spectrum. When you hear sound, I'm gonna solo this sound. You have, this is like a normal EQ, or let me show it on a good analyzer. By the way, for all your producers out there, you always should use a good analyzer, and I can strongly suggest the Span analyzer, because it's it doesn't look the most fancy kind of way, but it's the most usable, at least for my taste, and many other pro producers use it as well. And here you can see the frequencies pretty clearly in a way that is pretty flat. So when you listen to the whole song, you have the sub here. This is the area of the lows. You have the mids, upper mids, and the highs. And this analyzer is made in the way that everything should pretty much be in a straight line. So you can directly see in this mix down we have too many mids, and we are lacking a bit of highs, which will come with the vocal sound, which I currently turned off. So when you check out this filter sweep here, we can see everything is filtered out and slowly comes in. So more and more highs are added. And now the sound is kind of open. And this is done with an automation of this filter. So when you check here, it gets open more and more and more. And this creates this filter sweep effect, which gives you the impression that it's getting louder, but instead of getting louder, it just gets more frequencies added up, more highs, and it gets more intense. Right? So we have the same effect in the pre-chorus, like these two bars are the part after the verse and before the chorus starts. And it sounds like this. Right, so you can see this is how you can build tension in a song, and it's done using automations. We can check that out later. I use a lot of automations on my tracks, which makes the mixing much easier, and which makes it possible that you can mix each part of the track a little bit separately, because you can like automate the volume and the EQ settings without using too many tracks and copies of the same sounds. And this gives the track a more refined sound and also helps with the transitioning, because like after the chorus, yeah, you can see it here. And this lead sounds from the chorus are still getting played, but they are slowly getting filtered down. To give a nice transition. And here we just heard the bridge, which is after the chorus. This consists of 3 new leads coming in, which are like more bell kind of sounds, very soft, very chill kind of sounds. But even in a hard club track, it is important to have parts that are a little bit more quiet. At least if you want to build a track that has like a tension curve with tension rising up, getting to a high in a chorus, and then falling a bit down to give a little bit more room to breathe, and then going up in the verse, adding up to the next chorus, and then getting to another high in the next chorus. So here in the bridge we have very chill sounds, but I think it fits pretty well after the hard chorus. To release the tension, give you a nice breathing room, and also transition from the chorus into the next verse. So we can check it out once more. And there the second verse starts, right? So, yeah, what kind of sounds did we use here? We can check them out in solo. It's like this bass sound. Very soft and very smooth. Another bass sound with a bit more stereo. And we have this main part playing a different melody also to like build a nice harmonic with the other melody, which is getting played by these recorded sounds, which are lead sounds from the virus, by the way. That's why you don't see the MIDI, it's recorded from my hardware synthesizer. And so far so good. These are all the parts of the song. We can check it out with vocals now. Because I'm not gonna play my distorted vocals solo. I can tell you that they are sound pretty rough without any sound in the background. So we can check them out here. I have something soloed. So yeah, Nicky's Whisper here. Right, so these are my vocals here, and also Nicky's whispering, which is not much, but it adds a nice variation. It's always not bad to have like different kind of vocals in a song. So either you effect your own vocals a bit differently, you have like soft and harder, or you put some samples from like a movie or some other stuff in it, or in this case some nice whispering from Nicky. So this is how Nicky's whispering sounds here. Insane. On this track it's pretty mono. We just recorded one take, and of course it's not purely mono. We have a nice reverb on it and a nice delay. But here on this part we have one take left and one take right, which is always good if you want to have big vocals, to record the same like vocals twice or even 3 or 4 times or even more, and then spread them out in the stereo field, left, right, center. And you need different takes for that, because they need to be slightly different, so you can hear it really stereo. And here we just put them a little bit left and a little bit right, so it's not super stereo, but it's a bit more. So we can check it out here.
Tonight. Insane.
Right, so it's a very pleasing kind of whispering with a lot of reverb on it, but it's definitely more stereo, and it adds a nice variation in the sound, which is the PreChorus. We can check it out together. So we're coming from the verse here into the PreChorus. Right, so we have my vocals in the verse, who are pretty normal, and then my vocals get a little bit more chill, which is I recorded them differently and also put a little bit more reverb and delay on it with automations. And then in between we have Nikki's whispers, which also like give a little bit more variety and also add a bit more tension, because we have her last sample right before the chorus starts. We can check it out again. So this is also a nice way to emphasize like a part with just the right placement, right? So here's another take. We come from the chorus into the bridge, and for transition we also use her vocals here. Get into the nice smooth bridge with the bass sounds, and this leads us directly into the effect section. Effects in this case are transition effects, are like small samples like impacts, risers, crashes, down sweeps, or even like sub sounds. And these are really important, and beginners usually don't use these enough, but these are important to make a track like sound really professional, to give a nice smooth transition, and to also add quality to the track. And we're gonna dive into that right at the start. Here we have these effects. So it's basically just one impact here, and this nice tonal impact here mixed together, and they are directly the start of the song. These are basically the intro effects. So we're gonna turn off the vocals so you can hear it better. Without them, the intro sounds like this, basically just a synth getting filtered in, as you remember, with the Filtersweep. Sounds cool, but it's not really interesting enough, right? You need like a more attention sounds right at the start. So this is what these impacts are doing. Right, they add a nice ear candy, so to say, and they also fill up the mix a bit more, because if you just have one lead, nothing else, even if you have a good reverb on it, it sounds still pretty empty. So these effects filling up the intro, and then we have regularly on important parts of the song where like you want a little bit of transition, you have like a riser and a crash. So here we have the intro coming into the full sound of chorus, like it gets filtered up, getting more and more. So you might have not even heard these little effects, and that's a good thing, because these effects are not there to be like in front of the mix and to be super loud. They are just in the background, like emphasizing transitions and smoothing out the flow. So these sound like this. So you have a little riser here and a little crash on the first note, which is on the first kick, which is coming in here. So we can check it out again without. Especially the first kick here sounds pretty empty, nothing special, but when the crash comes in, it sounds a bit better. Right, so this impact here, without and with. You can't really separate it. It's like it belongs to the kick, but it emphasizes the first kick and it gives this part of the track more impact. And personally, I like to use it pretty regularly. Very subtle though, not too loud. But the most important part where you need to use transition effects is when you have very quiet part in the song. And for this track, it's where you come from the verse into the first pre-chorus, so we can check that out. Not sure if you heard it. We can check it out solo. So we have a little bit to introduce the break. We bring a little riser in here. On the break, we have a little bit impact here and the down sweep here. And then later to like add more tension to the pre-chorus and like transition to the chorus, we have a big riser. And on the first kick, we have a crash again. So let's check it out. Right. So this is a part we're getting into the pre-chorus. Let's check it without. Sounds not bad, but a bit empty. Let's check it out with. You can hear this down sweep in the background. And now a riser comes in. And again we have this crash on the kick without and with. Right, it's much more impact, much more punch, much more power in the chorus. So these effects are important. And also like we have this tonal effect, which adds a nice quality to the sound, like, right? This smooth, chill sound in the background. All right, so these are transition effects in a nutshell for you. Use quite a lot of them. You don't have to use as much as these, but I like to. And we can check out another important part, which is like the bridge. That should be like here. No, that was another pre-chorus. We can check out the bridge here. As you can see, we have a lot of effects playing here as well, so we can check it out without. You can hear the start of the bridge, super empty without them, but with. It adds a lot of quality to the bridge, right? It adds a lot of sounds, a lot of depth, and more fullness to the very quiet part. Which is kind of important because it should not get boring, right? You always need to grab the attention of the listener, especially in a club track where people are probably on the dance floor. You take out the kick already, so they are like probably stop dancing. They are waiting. They're probably relaxing a bit, but you need to get their attention and keep their attention until the kick comes in, which is pretty fast here as well. Like we take the kick out here. but not for too long because you want to keep the people dancing. Back here. All right, so this was a basic overview, like a production breakdown for everyone, kinda. And I hope you enjoyed it. And a little bit of shameless self-promotion. The single is of course out since like roughly 1 month now. It's out on all platforms. It's called Call Me Insane 90s Tribute, and you can check it out on all digital platforms, and you should do so. And for all the people who are interested more in the technical side of producing and the mixing, and I'm not gonna talk about too much about mastering, but talking about sound design and stuff like that, I'm gonna do that now. And for the people who are just interested in the basics, you can stop here and add the single on Spotify now, right? Do what you like. So let's start with the general. Probably let's start with the sound design, right? Because this is very important. You need good sounds. Nothing is helping you if you like using bad presets. You can have the nicest melodies. A bad preset will not really transport the melody as good as a good sound. So we can a little bit check out what I have done here. So let's check out the main sound of the chorus, which is this again, if you remember. And this is done with the Silence 1, one of my favorite synthesizers. It is super old, and that is a problem if you're using like presets and the built-in effects like delay and reverb. They are super old, they are low quality up to nowadays standards, so you have to turn them off. You have to use external effects. But if you do so, you can still use it very nicely, because I like the super saw kind of sound with this built-in filter, which adds with a bit of drive, adds like a nice harmonic, a nice curve of a filter, which gets you a little bit more warm super saw sound than on other synthesizers. And that's why I prefer to use for dark electro lead sounds. Often I'm gonna use at least one layer of silence, and in this case I can show you the filters. Right, you can hear this builds very nicely, and the sound is a bit more warm and a bit more almost like analog kind of style than if you use other synthesizers, even modern synthesizers like Diva or Hive or other like hardware synthesizers. They have quality filters as well, but they are not as warm sounding as these here, at least in my kind of opinion. So this is like the main sound here, and we have a little bit of filter automation, of course. I just turned on the automation lanes inside of Ableton. So as you can see, I use a lot of automation, and mostly on the lead sounds here, because this song is like a very lead focused, a very melody focused track. We have very simple bass lines, so not much in there. And I'm using filter automation here as well for the Filtersweep. Opening up here, this is the one you can see here. Also, I'm using automation on the filter of silence, because the filter of silence gives a, as you just heard, a very different very different kind of sound. And we want a little bit more chill, more plucky kind of style in the pre-chorus and a bit more intense in the chorus then. Not too intense though, because if you open up the filter all the way, it can get quite harsh with the highs. Yeah, and there is not too much going on here, just some basic EQing. If you have a good sound, you don't need to EQ like crazy shit. So we have just a little bit of upper mid boost here, and this EQ is pretty, well, not the greatest example here to be honest, but it works. It boosted the mids a bit more, and as you can hear, without it and with it, I have sorted the wrong track. Without it, I mean, yes, of course it gets louder because the frequency is getting boosted, but also it adds like this more warm kind of mid sound. And this one boosts the highs. It is purely for mixing though, because the song was lacking highs and I needed to boost the highs on several different sounds. So I did that later. And in Ableton, the basic EQ is pretty good. You can turn on oversample and it has a nice quality, but it also adds like a little bit of own distortion, and that can get quite harsh if you boost the highs with it. That's why I'm using the channel EQ to boost the highs, basically. Right, so one last of secret weapons I can tell you is I'm not using purely supersaw sounds, but usually I have a little bit of square in it. So this is like the saw wave synthesizer type, and this is like a square, and the square will make the sound much more. I mean, you can check it out if I make it the saw as well. It sounds like this. And make it a square. It adds a little bit more brightness with a deeper sound though. So the square is like, I mean, I can show you how a square sounds. I mean, we have only these two, right? So this is like, yeah, this is like the square, and this is the sound. So this square or pulse wave gives the sound a bit more crunch, so to say, and also mixes much better. So it really cuts through the mix much better, and it gives much more quality to a super saw kind of sound than if you're just using saw waves. So this is a very secret weapon. Don't tell anyone. All right, for the other sounds, well, not gonna get too much into this bell sound design stuff. Basically, what I'm usually do is I check out presets as an inspiration, but I always tweak the presets. Usually I can improve it quite a lot as well, at least for the type of sound I'm using and I'm searching for. It's a good starting point. It's much better than if you try to sound design every sound from scratch. Then you're more like a sound designer than a producer, because it takes much more time to get like all the sounds you need and to get a song done. So to be like kind of efficient, you should use presets, at least for an inspiration. Not use presets one-to-one though, only because that's kind of boring and it will not make your sound not very unique. So you should learn how to use, how to tweak a synthesizer and how to get the sound you desire. And if you don't find a sound and you have a good idea, then of course make it yourself, as I have done with a lot of sounds actually. But this bell sound is coming from a preset. You can check it out. And as you might already know or not, a bell sound is usually coming from sine wave. Like we already had the saw wave, the pulse wave, or square, and this is a sine wave. And if you make like a super sine wave kind of style, then it gets a nice bell sound, which can sound quite harsh though. So you need to be very careful with the highs. Also, if you check it out on the frequency meter, you see these super sharp kind of frequencies, and I'm kind of reducing those, which with reducing the highs. So without it sounds like this. So if you have good quality speakers or headphones, you can hear it's already pretty harsh in the highs. So I'm reducing the highs, which is one thing. And then I have this little plugin which is called Soothy. So it kind of soothes the sound, which you can see here. It analyzes the sound and these harsh frequencies, which you can see in the meter here as well, are getting a little bit processed and filtered down. So without Soothy, you can check it out. And with, it gets a bit more quiet, but it also gets less harsh. And of course you can, like, if you watch some professional EQing tutorials, you see people like using these notch EQs, like making this super sharp and like sweeping through the frequency spectrum, listening, and then when they hear a sharp frequency, they like duck it down. You can do that as well, but the problem is if you play different notes, you see these things are moving, so you will never hit all of them. And you have a lot of these here, so plugins like Soothy are really helping you a lot here. Also very good on vocals. It's a bit like a de-esser who removes S and T voice vocals a bit as well. All right, I think that's for the leads. For the basses, there's not much stuff here. One thing, as I said, using older synthesizers, like I use Silence here twice, and I use Vanguard. Vanguard is super old synthesizer. You cannot use this reverb. It sounds like a rubbish can. It's disgusting. Really, really old. So if you want to use, if you want to have a modern professional kind of sound, you need to use external effects. So what you do is, like in Silence, you turn off the delay, reverb, and here in Vanguard you turn off the shit as well. I mean, delay you could use, probably delay is just a repetition of the original sound, so even if it's low quality it's not a big deal, but reverb, you really need good reverb. So this is what I use groups for as well. I group all the sounds who are playing together and who are layered on each other and who should sound similar, right? So in the chorus is these sounds, and I have external effects on it, which are here, and these are where I've only turned on the reverb, but we can check out without the reverb. It sounds like this. Super dry, super, I mean, obviously you need reverb or delay, at least one of them, on like lead effects. So we can check out without and with, right? So it's not super much, but it is definitely a big difference, and it also adds this nice kind of flow in the background. We can check it out again. And I'm using Valhalla Room here. I can strongly suggest Valhalla as a reverb. It's a very quality reverb for very low price. And yeah, Valhalla Room can do quite a lot, and it sounds really good on especially on leads, like for electro sounds. And I use quite a bit of pre-delay here. Pre-delay is like the time until the effect, in this case the reverb starting, so you have the original notes are playing and you have like a little bit of time, which is like 80 milliseconds until the reverb comes in. So you have at the start of the note, you hear the notes clearly and then the reverb comes in. So this is a good technique to not mud up your leads too much. You can use either like pre-delay, or you can like use another technique which is called ducking, which is done with the compressor, for example, or like a multiband compressor to dip down the reverb when the notes are playing, and then letting the reverb in when the leads are not playing. Like if you have like a melody with a lot of breaks, that technique is also pretty nice. But it can help already if you use some pre-delay. In this case, a pretty long decay time, so 7 seconds long reverb to give it a nice flow. And it also like if you have like a melody which plays different harmonics, like you go from A to E to F to C, these notes all fit great together, and with the reverb it transfers the notes from before and lets them play it in the background with the new notes coming in, so you have this nice harmonic sound as well to it, which is quite important as well. And yeah, together it sounds like without and with. Right, so this is very important. Use good effects, especially if you layer sounds. You should not, I mean, even if you use modern synthesizers, you should probably turn off the effects inside, group them up. It doesn't matter if you use Ableton in groups, or if you use like a bus where you send each sound to, and then on this bus you use like a reverb, or the old school way, you of course you can use return or send channels and then send these effects toward it. And here I'm not using the reverb directly on the group. I use it inside this chain. Like I have a clean chain here, which is without any effects, and on parallel I have on -9 dB another chain which with this reverb on it. So this is basically like the same as if I would use a send channel and use it and send the sound here from the group to there with -9 dB. And another trick is you should always EQ like the reverb and delay effects. You should not leave everything through, but also cut the highs and the lows a bit. So that you can high cut in the synthesizer already, but the filters in these effects are usually very not very steep. They are very flat. So even if you cut like at 6 kilohertz, it probably will leave frequencies till. I mean, you can check it out. You see frequencies up to 10 kilohertz getting through. So it's very, very wide filter, and that's why I use a little bit EQ as well. And if you EQ out the lows and highs, it's also a good way to separate the effect from the original signal and to make it fit together and not mud up each other. Like if you have a lot of reverb and delay, it can mud up the original, which you don't want. So you need to cut out enough highs and lows for that, right? Okay, so let's get to the bass lines. Bassline is super simple here. By the way, these are glue compressors, like a basic compressor compressing the sound. And I use this on the groups, and glue compressor is especially built for that, to like compress different sounds and glue them together. Because this is also a nice effect if you put compressors on a group or on a bus channel where you put a bunch of sounds in it. It's the same as using a reverb on a group or on a send channel. It kind of makes the sound fit together because it gets processed together and then it sounds more like one sound. The glue compressors don't make such a big difference though, so you can barely hear it, but it's also like gluing out like the different parts, so that everything is pretty much equally loud. Then we have like a boost here on the highs to make them more audible in the mix. And we also have a little bit of reverb, just a little bit, just minus 19, but it's definitely needed because without the bass sounds, I mean, take a different part probably, like here. Super dry. And with a little bit of reverb, it sounds much more natural because there are no sounds in the nature without any reflection, and you should not have sounds 100% dry in your song as well. Alright, I'm not gonna get too much into my vocal effects because I think everyone should have their own vocal effects. It's kind of style you have to develop. But I can tell you like the general chain I'm using. The main effects in my dark vocals coming from the vocoder, which is vocodex in this case, but I'm not going to show you the settings, of course, because this is the secret and you have to do it yourself. But these are the recorded vocals, and they are getting through this effect chain a gate, which is filtering everything which is super low volume, like background noises in between the vocals, a little bit of high and low cut, compression. Then the vocoder coming in, and then we have a limiter, which is a brick wall limiter in Ableton. It really compresses the sound really together, really hard to make this vocals very upfront and very extreme, so to say. It's very also very easy to mix then, because they are like cutting through the mix much easier and not getting lost in all the big fat lead sounds and kick and snare, which in SynthAttack is all really intense, so you need to mix it well to cut through. We have some SUD here as well, which is taking out the harsh S and T frequencies, and we have some EQing here, and we have a de-esser kind of plugin, which is removing the S and T louds syllables, so we can check it out here. You see the S and T syllables are getting filtered down. Because this is one of the problems with distorted vocals. Everything gets more extreme. So if you have like if you record vocals, the S and the T is always a problem. They're always the loudest part, and the vocoder will just exaggerate it even more. So you have to be super careful here. Yeah, and then we have here some reverb and delay on it as well, of course. Nothing too special, and we even have a little bit of sausage fattener, which we have on the basslines as well. Just gives a little more deep distortion. Nice little plugin, super old, but still usable. And yeah, what else to say? The most important thing is for a harder club track that you have a good drum sounds and mix these very well with the other sounds. So I see a lot of beginners not doing the basic stuff, like cutting all leads with a low cut filter. You need to cut out the lows of all sounds we don't really need it, because I can show you like if I don't cut out the lows here on this lead sound, I have a lot of rumble here, which I don't need. I don't hear any difference if I cut it out. But if I don't cut it out on all tracks, it will edge up so much sub bass that my kick will not have a clear punch anymore. It will sound super muddy. So you need to high cut everything, like all leads or vocals. High cut it as high you can. I mean, you can check it out here. That's how you do it. This is a group kinda. And I don't hear a difference, so I can capture here. If I go too high, sound starts getting thin, so I can't go that high. but I can cut until here. Right? This is how you do it. With the bass, of course, you cannot high cut it really. You need some load as well. But generally, what I suggest for a hard club track is leaving most of the sub for the kick, right? Especially if you have a long kick and if you have a little bit higher BPM, so you don't have too much space between each kick. If you let too much sub in the bass line, then it will mud up the kick, and the kick in the club is not really making boom, 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 but it's more like woo, 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 right? And you won't probably hear that exactly in your home studio with the little monitors, but in the club, it will not really be such a banger. It will not give this clean punch that makes the people move, and that's quite a big deal then, right? So the bass line here, how did I mix it with the kick? I can show you. Like without the kick, it sounds like this. Now we have any filter here going on. Let's check out here. Yeah. This is the sound of the bass, and this is a high cut. This is just on the reverb, so you can forget that. You can see all kinds of frequencies here, but I have different kind of EQs on every track. So you can see this is like not a good example for EQing, but it works. We have like a boost on the important frequency of a bass sound. Let's check out this main sound here. We have like, you can turn them off. You can hear a lot of highs, which I cut out here. But without these boost, it sounds a bit boring. I want to emphasize the lows, the mid lows of the sound, and I don't want to cut out the sub, but I really want to get it lower to make it easier to mix with a kick. So I lower it a bit, and this is basically a high cut because the sound is too harsh, too many highs for me. I want to leave the highs for the leads in this kind of club track, which is more focused on the leads. So how does it sound with the kick? We solo the kick and the bass. You can hear it sounds pretty high already because I'm using these kind of bass lines to add more highs. This would be a more natural sound kind of. Bass is sitting pretty high already as well, but it's sitting pretty good for me because if you use the bass that is too low, it will be very hard to mix with the kick, at least if you want to give the kick the majority of the sub and the lows. But this EQing is not enough. You cannot get a perfect balance with just EQing, if you ask me. So what we are using is a professional kind of ducking. And I have done it with a multiband compressor. You can do it with, yeah, you kind of need a multiband compressor though. You can do it probably with an EQ, which has dynamics in it as well, like a PreChorus 3, but this is done with the FabFilter Pro multiband. And you can see here, each kick is ducking the sub on the bass. So this effect is on the group of the basses, right? And when the kick hits, quite a lot of the bass sound is getting ducked away. But when the kick doesn't hit, it's filtered down, okay. So let's check out the bass without the kick. And what I've done here to get a perfect sidechain, I mean, it is pretty easy with the multiband. You can just select the track you want to sidechain. So I could select the kick here, but I want to process the sidechain a bit. So I have a send channel where I'm sending the kick to, and on this is not audible. This is like only a send channel I'm using to sidechain. and I'm cutting out all the lows because I want only the start of the kick, only the click. So I'm using only the click of the kick to duck the bass, right? So we can check it out here with the kick together. This way you have a constant movement, and when the kick is starting, it gets stuck down, but when then it really goes up as well. If I don't do that and I have a long kick, it will just constantly be down, right? I can show you that as well. If we select the kick, it will stay most of the time it's down, and then you could just EQ it out as well. It would be the same. But I want a dynamic ducking, so I'm using the side channel trick. And this is probably not that audible in your home studio, but if you have a subwoofer or a sub pack, or if you check it out in the club, this will leave a lot more room for the sub, for the kick in the club, and this will give a lot more punch to your old track. And it sounds then like this. Right, so you can hear the kick a bit more clearly, the sub more clearly, and the good thing of doing it this way is when you have parts without your kick, it releases the sidechain like here. It gets back down. Now we have no kick anymore, so it leaves out the whole frequencies of the bass. So there's no need to cut them down here. So whenever the kick is not playing, it leaves everything through, and you don't have to automate it or EQ it differently then, which is really nice. All right, I think we have covered most of the things I wanted to cover. Once again, this is not the final mixdown, and it's surely not the mastered version. It is pretty close to the mixdown though. And personally, on our first albums, we used XMP, which is Jan from NoiseFX, to mix and master our songs, and he did a great job on it. He's also mixing and mastering like a lot of other harder dark electro bands, which you know from the scene. And in the last tracks and the last year, so I decided that I'm gonna need to mix the tracks myself. Not because I really want to do it, but my skills improved quite a lot because I'm putting a lot of time in this technical stuff since years now. And for like a refined mix with a lot of automations, you cannot let someone else mix and master it, because if he compresses this automations, they will get compressed down and be less effective. Like if I have volume automations, they get lost in the compression, and you really cannot make a super refined, super detailed mixdown. We're letting someone else like mix it, right? So that's one of the big reasons that we are doing it ourselves now. And we tried a lot of mastering guys, and there are a lot of good guys out there, like besides Jan from NoiseFX, from XMP, there's like Christian, of course, who does a lot of mastering for a lot of bands in the scene. Like these are the two big guys doing most of the stuff. But for our sound, I found a really nice guy called Yannis from that Recordings, and who's mastering our stuff now. And he does a really good job because he's a pure mixing mastering engineer, and he has all the gear that would be way too expensive for me to buy. And yeah, so I will leave his contact down in the YouTube description if you're interested. check him out. One thing though, he's not that used to dark electro, so you also always have to double check if the result is how you want it. But I can strongly suggest him as well. And yeah, one last note on the automations, kinda. Don't get confused, like you can see on the right side, this is like gain automation, so I just automated these parts in the chorus a little bit more quiet. This is like filter automation, so we can check that out first. We're coming from the chorus here. So these are the same sounds basically, except the super harsh lead. But it gets filtered down, and that way it sounds already much different than before, and it fits much better in this kind of style where the bass sounds come in. So use automations, don't be lazy. And Ableton actually can do that quite easy. You just click on something you want to automate. Like if I want to automate, for example, I want to do a nice filter LFO thingy with automation. I click here, I hit A for automation. So and then I click on the frequency, and I can do like this, and I can like copy this, right? And then it sounds like this. Right, so super easy to make these kind of interesting automations. I used it on Life is a Bitch as well to give this kind of sweeping up and down sound. Pretty much I used it like this. I added the notch filter and automated it towards the melody. So on specific part of the melody it gets more high and then it gets more low. And this kind of stuff really adds value to the sounds, kind of. All right. Did I forget anything? I hope not. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section of YouTube, please. Or yeah, I mean, I'm gonna share it on Facebook so you can ask there as well. I'm trying to answer them. What I cannot do is I cannot like teach you how to produce. You have to learn it yourself. You have to check out YouTube tutorials for that. So super basic stuff like you should check out with Google and YouTube is your friend. But specific stuff I can maybe help you with. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I tried to give you a lot of value. All my secrets, not all my secrets, but some I gave away now. And this is how we produce our club tracks, at least. I mean, we not always produce club tracks, but mostly. This is a very straightforward, pretty basic example. Of course, tracks like Final Salvation will be a little bit more complex with the piano and other sound in there, and Nikki sings in there. So it's a bit more complex, but I wanted to keep it simple here. So I use this track as a good example. And I hope you enjoyed it. Check out Call Me Insane. Add it on Spotify. And yeah, stay tuned for more. Our big 5th album is coming in the fall with a new video. We have a lot of work into that. We will get ready some fan boxes as well, some new merch, shirts, everything. So stay tuned for that. And for my producer colleagues, keep producing. We need more good music, especially harder dark electro, because that is coming short. I think there's too few new bands coming up, so get your shit together and produce some good music, guys. Wish you good luck with that. And tell me in the comments, what did you like, what did you miss, what questions do you have? And yes, stay tuned and see you soon. Hopefully live on some festivals soon as well. We are all craving for some concerts. And I really hope at the end of the year it's gonna happen. So see you guys. Cheers.